So it's the big announcement on Friday for Thomas Tuchel naming his England World Cup squad to head to the States. Jamie Carragher is here, and Thomas Tuchel is probably locked in a room right now thinking, I wonder what Jamie Carragher is thinking. And he is about to wait no more, because Jamie's going to give him some important points to help him over the line for his 26-man squad. Now, we did this back in January when Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was with us on Monday Night Football. Jimmy, of course, had been involved with the previous England camps under the previous management of Gareth Southgate. So this is the squad we're going to show you now that Jamie went with back in January, and an awful lot of thought went into this. And I think at the time, Jamie, you were pretty happy with it, but time changes. People go in and out of form, people get injuries. So basically, under the dotted line in each category are the players that Jamie has decided are not going to be on the plane. So let's start with the fullbacks, Jamie, because this has been a source of major problems for you, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and I think that this will be a problem for Thomas Tuchel because of the injuries as well to certain players at fullback, namely right fullback. But I think certain players as well coming into form, or coming to the fore, I should say. When I think of Nico O'Reilly, who wasn't on that list for me, he has to be in the squad now. I think he has to be in the team. So so fullback, there's been a lot of change in that position. Everywhere else is pretty much the same, really.
So you've been forced by, of course, the form of others that have put their hands up for selection. But are there any there that you think have dropped out of form and therefore cannot be considered for, or should not be considered for selection anymore?
I think Livramento's injuries, I think, are a big worry for him, for his career, forget England. But when you think Reece James is our first choice right back, we do know he still has injury problems as well. And I think to take Reece James and Livramento together, two injury-prone right backs, I think is a chance too far, if you like, really, in that position. Chalobah, I wouldn't say he's been out of form, but I just think there's others now coming back who have put in that position as well. Someone with great experience.
The headline really is Phil Foden. That's the one that the journalist's going to be pressing you on when you announce this squad.
Yeah. Listen, Phil hasn't had his best season. I think we all know he's a wonderful talent. But for whatever reason, it's never quite happened for him for England. And I don't think those managers should be criticised for that. I think Phil probably has to look at himself and think of the reasons why. He's been tried in lots of different positions, right across the front, left, central and right. Is that part of the problem, do you think, in that you couldn't say for sure which position he would be targeting for England? Yes and no, but I think he's been given so many opportunities in different positions, because when he was put in a certain position, he didn't nail that position down. He was actually playing before Saka on the right wing for England. I think in the Euros England had at home maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He started the tournament right wing. Saka eventually got it and took that jersey, and he wasn't giving it back up. He was there before Cole Palmer. Now, I wouldn't say Cole Palmer's got the shirt. It looks like Morgan Rogers has got the number 10 shirt now. But when you think of all those other players in that number 10 position or winger position, he's had an opportunity before those players have come into the squad, and he hasn't grasped it, and he hasn't had a great season this season. But is there also an argument that Cole Palmer's not really a player in form when you think about his numbers this season compared to previous years? Yeah, totally agree. The reason why I would go with Cole Palmer is because I think he's got a little bit more of an arrogance than Phil Foden has, in terms of when I see him on the pitch. Sometimes I look at Phil Foden and I think he's probably arguably, talent-wise or ability-wise, you can't think of many English players better than Foden. But I just feel like there's, I don't know what it is, something lacking, almost like an arrogance, an ego. I think Cole Palmer's got that, Jude Bellingham's got that. It's hard to quantify what I mean, but you can see it on the pitch, the shoulders are out, they fancy themselves. And I think that's one of the problems why Phil probably doesn't show his Manchester City form that we've seen over the last sort of 4 or 5 years in an England shirt. And I think Cole Palmer's got a little bit more than that. So those are the players that are dropping out of Jamie's squad. Luke Shaw, Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall as the fullbacks. And that's going to upset a lot of Newcastle fans who fancy Lewis Hall has had a very strong season. Trevor Chalobah dropping out of the centre-backs, and Phil Foden from the number 10s and the wingers. So who comes in? Here is Jamie's squad
for the World Cup. This is what Thomas Tuchel has been waiting for. Sticking with the same goalkeepers, he's bringing in Nico O'Reilly and Miles Lewis-Skelly. He's added Levi Colwill and John Stones, and Morgan Gibbs-White has forced himself onto the plane. Let's start with him then, Jamie. Why Morgan Gibbs-White?
I think he's the most informed player, or certainly attacking-wise in the Premier League. Certainly in the second half of the season. I've always been a huge fan of Morgan Gibbs-White. I would always have him in the England squad. I think of when we have those sort of technical players between the lines, I think he's got something, he's quite quick and, you know, a really good physicality, and he can get about the pitch and make runs in behind as well. So it's not just his run of form of late puts him in the squad, and hopefully that puts him in the squad for Thomas Tuchel as well. But for me, I'd always be looking to have someone like him in or around the squad. He just missed out last time, but he was always very close. He's always someone I mention as being close.
Do you think that when you're picking your squad for a tournament like this, you are thinking of as many possible avenues for goal creation, goal scoring as possible, when it might be tight in the back end of matches?
Maybe, and people, when they'll pick their own squads, Thomas Tuchel has picked his squads, and people talk about players who can play different positions, players who can make an impact from the bench, good tourists. You hear all these things. I just try and pick the best 26 players. And you know what I mean? That's the only one I look at that I was not quite sure about was the left-back area, thinking bringing two youngsters, if you like. Should Luke Shaw go there? So that's one that, listen, if you're asking me tomorrow, I might change my mind.
So do you think, you think those are the best fullbacks that are available to Thomas Tuchel then?
No. but with Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't think Trent will go. But what I would say is, Reece James is injury prone. Livramento is injury prone. I think it's very difficult to take both of them. Now, Ben White has just got injured. I wouldn't say Ben White's having a great season at Arsenal, but he's playing for a team who are going to go when they probably look like they're going to be champions. And then you've got Jed Spence. Now, if everybody was fully fit, I would take Livramento and not take Trent. But I think with the injury problems in this position, and the fact that Trent has played a lot of games now consecutively for Real Madrid, I think I would put him there. Now, if Reece James was injured and England were playing a really big game against a top winger, I might put Konza right back. But Trent gives you the option of maybe a game that you're expecting to win, you could bring him on. Now, the two left backs, again, I just think Nico O'Reilly, for me, has to be a start. He's been fantastic. Miles Lewis-Skelly playing in midfield. Yes, I've brought him as a left back, but I can't get out of my head what that lad did a year or so ago in the Bernabeu and what he's done since he's come into the team. He's got this arrogance and, I wouldn't say ego, but he's just got something about him that I think you could drop him into a game in the World Cup and he wouldn't look out of place. Now, again, you could maybe put him into midfield, bring Luke Shaw in for a bit of experience, but I think Nico O'Reilly and Miles Lewis-Skelly have to go.
You also express a bit of concern around taking players who've had injuries, but you've added Levi Colwill, who's only just back from a terrible injury, missed pretty much all of the season, and John Stones, I think, has started 3 games since November. So does that go against that?
Yeah, but when I think of the centre-back position, it's probably, I wouldn't say it's the weakest, but I don't think we've got someone who is amazing, better than everybody else. So they're almost of a certain level. Now, I've brought John Stones in because one reason is I think he's almost a certain to go. Thomas Tuchel speaks so highly of him. He is a centre-back who is produced at the highest level. Now, how often is he going to play? We don't know. But that's why you've probably gone for the extra centre-back. I've gone with Colwill because I'm a huge fan of his. He's left-footed. Yes, he's just come back. I thought he played really well at Anfield, played really well in the cup final. He could also, if there was a problem at left-back, could go in there as well. But I think he's definitely one going forward. I think he'll always be involved in England squads. And Chalobah was the one who sort of missed out. But Colwill and John Stones are better players than Chalobah.
So that's the squad. Let's have a look at the list of players who might be knocking on the manager's door or releasing things into the media or social media through their agents. And these are the unlucky ones. Dan Burn, of course, has been a part of it through most of the time under Thomas Tuchel. He likes his experience, clearly. James Garner did well when he came into the March internationals. Harvey Barnes has been sort of, well, we weren't sure if Harvey Barnes was going to declare for Scotland and then got his call up in March. Noni Madueke, an impact player. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, someone again who could make a difference in the back end of games. Jamie, if you were to have 2 or 3 injuries in the last week, where would you be looking?
I think the standout ones that I think are probably unlucky to make my squad are probably Luke Shaw. I think James Garner's done well, hasn't he, since he's come into the England squad. You would maybe look at Madueke just on the fact that he's actually done well for Thomas Tuchel. So he might be a player who may feel a little bit unjust that he's not go my squad. He still might go in Thomas Tuchel's squad. Yeah, Foden just for his natural ability. We know the quality he's got. I think they're probably the 4 or 5 I would say who may still go and maybe feel a little bit like I've let them down, not putting them in. I've planted the seed in the manager's head.
There it is. Let's see how close it is to the real thing when that's announced on Friday. Thank you very much, Jamie.